I recently just finished The Curse of Soulwaker by Sharon Elwood. For those of you who don't know, Sharon Elwood is ASMR Glow. That's right, she wrote a novel. When I heard another ASMR creator wrote a novel, I had to check it out. So, this book is about, there's a land where, I want to say necromancers, but it's not the actual necromancer, it's the people are the undead, and she is the leader of the undead army. And at the beginning of the book, there's kind of a coup in the land of the undead, and they're ambushed in a way that their powers are taken away. They're actually brought back to life. So they go into this battle, and essentially their powers get suppressed. Their power being the fact that they're dead. And so they become weak, and they basically all get captured and taken to the land, a nearby land that they normally terrorize, and thrown in prison. And their leader, the king of the undead, is thrown in jail, or is kind of captured and essentially imprisoned. I guess, how would I say that? He's like taken to be killed, and they're thrown in prison. So, once in prison, and I'm not going to give away too many spoilers. I'm going to try and save the book for you, but just kind of set it up. They're thrown in prison, and meanwhile, the land is under attack, and they offer their services as mercenaries to buy their freedom by defending the land that they normally terrorize, and to fight off the invading horde. And they basically go to the funeral of their king and realize he used to be the king of the land that they've been terrorizing. So they basically go to this parade where his body is put on display, and then they're thrown back in prison for a long time, and they finally get out when they defend the land from an invading horde. But when they do so, this whole time, their powers are still gone, and they're worried about their powers when they'll come back. And so they go into this fight, and they don't realize till mid-fight that they're not undead at all. They're actually alive now. So they start getting slaughtered because normally they fight as the dead. And so now that they're alive, they're just not ready for the fight, and they kind of get overwhelmed a little bit, and the kingdom's forces come in and help them, and there's kind of a little bit of questioning of whether they've been set up or not, but it's made pretty clear that the king didn't know that they were completely human, so he didn't know that they would die. And so now the main character, the Soulwaker, she has to navigate this world of, she used to be the undead who terrorized this place, but now can she reintegrate and become part of that society again? And can she kind of rediscover her own history? because before she was killed and made part of the undead, she was a little girl who lived in this kingdom. So can she figure out her own past? Can she uncover the kingdom's past? And can she help that kingdom come together in order to basically stop their enemies from invading? It's a good book. I enjoyed it. It was a solid read. I mean, it's hefty. It's a good length. It does end on a little bit of a cliffhanger, so there's definitely going to be more stories in the Soulwaker series that we're going to have to wait on a little bit. Which is good. I think it was more story, you know, than you can tell in one go. So it's the beginning of a good series. The majority of the book, at least it felt like to me, maybe it was the end, is basically they're an envoy going around to other nearby kingdoms trying to recruit allies to help them fight in the war against the invading force. Which is... I kind of got confused a little bit. I think it's the one who set them up, the invading army, and he was the right-hand man of the undead king. And he's the one who's raising his own army, and so far he's just paid mercenaries to attack. So you haven't even seen the main army attack yet. Because his move is he likes to take mercenaries and weaken his enemy's forces. And then when they're all exhausted from fighting mercenaries, then he attacks with his army. So that was it. I thought it was a solid read. There was some... kind of a side plot where the mage that takes away their power is kind of this innocent guy, and the way you read it, I don't know. It reads like, and it doesn't happen in this book, it reads like you think it's gonna form into a romance. I don't know, maybe it's just me. I was reading it and I was like, these two are gonna get it on. They are gonna get together eventually. At some point. I could be dead wrong. There's no actual romance point in the book where they come together. The way he looks at her a lot is more where I'm picking it up. Like, I was like, I think he's infatuated with her. She's busy just living her life, becoming the undead. But one day, can't help but think. Can you see this map? Let's see if I can figure out where each place is. So, the undead Odinar, I think this is the undead because they live on a little island. So they must sail. I haven't looked at this map yet, that's why. I actually didn't read this copy. I bought the audiobook. I solely bought this copy to massage it for this video. And then I bought the audiobook and listened. 99% of the books I read these days are on Audible. I just, like, when I'm working out, I pop in some headphones, play it on the big speakers. That's how I listen to this one. The narrator's awesome. Sharon got a great narrator, I think. super interesting concept of like the necromancers. See, a necromancer is the person who brings the dead back to life and makes them fight for them. So she's not a necromancer. She is the undead. She's the dead soldier that rose up. So I don't know what you would call that, the necromancer's beast. But she is the undead. And there's a definite, like, will she get her power back and be able to use it for good this time? Because it's definitely made out so that when they're dead and they rise, they're a slave to whoever's controlling them. Like, she does not have free will. When she's lived her life like this, and she has her own life with the undead, but at the end of the day, it's clear that when there's orders given, she can't disobey them at all. And it shows her in the beginning, the king orders her to not defend him in the opening chapter or two. And it kind of shows her defy his will twice. Once she lets a little girl go, and the second time she keeps trying to free the king. He basically tells her to stop, and she ignores him, continues trying to free him. She views him as a father figure. So that sets up this early questioning where you're kind of like, can she get all of her power back and have control? Or use it for good this time? I don't know all the places that it's available. I'll put a link to the Amazon store down below. It does a really good job of creates this, this whole world, and it points out of, kind of tells you the backdrop of the story where the kingdom was in war, where the magic people and the non-magic people, kind of the mages, and then the regular people waged war against each other. And there's also this great threat to the kingdom, and in order to defend from that threat, the king basically had to make himself undead and then kill his guard and raise this army of undead because it was the only way to save the kingdom. And so now leading up to the book, it's like he lost control when he became undead, and though he saved the kingdom, he became the new enemy of the kingdom. So for years and years, he essentially was the number one threat to the whole kingdom. He just attacked everyone. He basically became paranoid that someone was coming to take his power away from him. So he would attack the land of the living, the people he became undead to protect, because he feared they were going to come try and take his power. So he would order his armies of undead to go kill the innocent, basically. And it's pretty well pointed out and heavily implied that the bad guy was in his ear, kind of convincing him all this was going to happen. And the main character, she views him as a father figure. And so she spends a lot of time basically, she wants to look up to, she wants the king to be proud of her, kind of. You get that vibe. She's pretty uncaring and a pretty hard person, but also she's kind of soft towards the undead king. Like, he brought her as a little girl and raised her into a woman, dead the whole time, but she's the only father figure he knows, and she's his #1 general. So how's that for a thumbnail? How about this? Too shadowy. Hold this side. Yeah, that's it. That's the one. That's the money shot. Yeah, good book. I'm not disappointed that I checked it out. Went by pretty quick, which is a good thing. For, look at that link, that went by pretty quick. Not bad. Not bad, ASMR Glow. If there was any negatives about the book, if I had to come up with any, I'd say, I don't know. I don't have very many complaints. Maybe I don't read a lot of fantasy. It seemed like maybe at times there's some exposition dumps, but it was completely in line with the story. I mean, you have this character who's coming to this world, knows nothing about it. So there are characters who will explain to her what's going on, and it's completely in line with the story, you know? Like, she should be getting this information at this time. So it is an exposition dump, but at the same time, it's needed for the character, not just the audience. So I'd say that's not even, I can't even complain about that because it makes sense. And I don't read a lot of fantasy, so that could be a normal trope. I don't read a lot of straight fantasy, I should say. I usually need some kind of a science fiction twist. So it's definitely not disappointed with The Curse of Soulwaker by Sharon Elwood. Can't wait to see what happens next. This is like the Star Wars scrolling sequence, but with ASMR.